would just like to apologize that this reading vlog is so freaking late, but I ended up going on vacation and did not realize that I did not finish editing this video. So when I was on vacation, I was going to go ahead and upload it on YouTube, and I realized I never finished it. So I'm just gonna apologize in advance. I'm very sorry. This is literally like 3 weeks freaking late, but September has just been a really busy month for me. I have a lot of reading vlogs that have basically fallen by the wayside, and this just happens to be one of them. So I did end up finishing all of the books in the month of August for the Magical Readathon, but this vlog is coming to you in late September, maybe mid-September. I don't know, but this vlog is probably coming to you mid-September. So I'm just gonna apologize for that. I'm very, very sorry. Please take it up with my receptionist. Enjoy the reading vlog. Hello, my sweet little noodles. My name is Brittany. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're gonna be doing a reading vlog about dark academia.
It's Brittany, bitch.
This isn't a genre that I read very often, but it's something that I've wanted to read for a few months now, and I'm really getting the hankering for it since we're going into the autumnal season. And so I was like, why not just make a reading vlog for the Readathon? It kind of worked out perfectly because this is happening in August, so it's kind of like almost autumn, like summer's supposed to be on its way out, so this just kind of worked. Also, over the years, I've realized I'm much more of a mood reader than I originally anticipated. I really thought I wasn't a mood reader, but as time goes on, I realized that if I'm not feeling the vibe, it's just not going to be as high of a rating for me, and I'm not going to enjoy the book as much. I really need to go with the flow and with my moods and what sounds good. And right now I really want some like dark Pretty Little Liars bullshit. I want some murdered kids. I want some fucked up scams. I want to know what's going on in the nitty gritty lives of these teenagers. Like, I just want to get fucked up over this. I love scheming and plotting and political devices. Like, this just sounds really interesting, but I like the YA setting because I love like the school setting of underdeveloped brains. Okay, like nothing is developed. You're just out here like wilding, doing dumbass shit, fucking people's lives over and getting people killed. That's what I signed up for. If you couldn't tell, I absolutely loved Pretty Little Liars when I was younger, and I did read the books, and I really loved the show up to like season 5 or 6, and I always end up like just like forgetting about it and then rewatching up till like 5 or 6, and then I stop watching again. I don't really know why that happens, but I think it just kind of gets like old as like a setting, but I really like those vibes. I always watched that show, and it was just such a fun time. Who doesn't like a murdery, thrillery aspect mixed with school? I think it's because school is so boring for so many people that like the excitement and enticement of like murders and crazy shit happening on campus just like makes the school life more interesting. I don't know why this is necessarily a trope. I don't know where this started, but like it's just something that I think so many of us enjoy. I don't really know why. If anybody knows why, that'd be great to let me know. I'm just low-key curious all of a sudden, but no matter what, I'm gonna read my fucked up bullshit. I was lucky to get my hands on the Atlas 6. This is a very popular book about magicians. I don't know much else other than it's like magicians and a secret society, and I think they're competing for spots, and it has something to do with like the Library of Alexandria. That's all I know. I read the first chapter. It's very pretentious, so I'm probably gonna say this to last because honestly, I'm a little scared. Next up is Ace of Spades, which was really popular a couple of years ago. This is like a YA thriller, and all I really know is it takes place between like two valedictorians who trying to find out like who's texting them and trying to take them down. It's kind of like a social media thriller to my understanding, but I could be wrong. And this was recommended by a librarian when I asked her for those dark academic vibes. So like, I hope this delivers. And last but certainly not least is The Ivies. And this is the book I'm honestly most excited about because I've actually followed this author for years on AuthorTube, and I really just hope I like her book. Like, this just sounds so interesting to me. Her other books like didn't really seem like up my alley, but whenever she talked about like murdering teenagers, sign me up. This is what I'm gonna start with first, just because it seems most like Pretty Little Liars. It has like a friend group, and they're all called the Ivies, and they like try to get into different Ivy League schools, and each girl's like assigned a school. But to my knowledge, one of the girls goes rogue, and then one of them is murdered. So I don't know if it's the same girl that goes rogue as murdered, like they apply to like the same school as somebody else and they got murdered, but that's all I know. I mean, a thriller about teens fighting against the Ivy League schools, that just sounds like something that's a really fun, fucked up time. So I'm definitely gonna start this first and then get back to you guys, but hopefully I can finish this the next couple days because I'm really feeling this vibe right now. And sometimes when you're really feeling that vibe, you can read through the books really quickly. Anyway, once I finish this, I'll get back to you guys, but I'm hoping this is a really fun, murdery ass time. I also might update you guys the 50% mark, just depending on how it's going, because it might be too juicy to wait till the end. So we'll see. Hey guys, I just want to give you guys a quick little update on a very busy week, which has been absolutely fucking insane. I have had 24 hours of straight training on completely different systems at my job because our company was bought and now we have to learn that company's programs and stuff. It's been really fun. And by fun, I mean absolute torture. But I did manage to get halfway into the Ivies, and so far this book is a slap. I knew I was probably gonna like this, but it is really hitting the spot. Like, this is juicy as fuck. That we have a bitch who is murdered and we're trying to figure out what's going on, and honestly I'm really living for this right now. Like, I am sliving right now. Our main character, Olivia, she is at this like boarding school on scholarship, and she's supposed to apply to Penn State because that is her Ivy League that her like friend group designated. The main girl, Avery, who's the one who's supposed to apply to Harvard, did not get into Harvard. So other people stole her spot because according to this school, only like, I think it's like 3 kids from the school usually get into Harvard. It's just like how it works. I don't know. I'm not into like the Ivy League thing. Even in college, it wasn't a thing. So I don't know how that actually works, if that's actually true. But only 3 kids for the school are supposed to get in, and Avery did not get in. So she is having a bitch fit, and lo and behold, Olivia is one of the ones who applied for Harvard and got in because there's a new counselor who basically let her like apply and wrote a recommendation or whatever. So she's one of the ones who got into Harvard. But we find out very soon that so did the other friend in the group named Emma. And Emma went and told Avery, and then that night she ends up fucking dead, dude. She ends up face down in the lake, and Olivia and Sierra are on the crew team. If you didn't know what crew is rowing. And so they're out really early in the morning getting ready to row, and they find Emma's dead body, fully clothed and everything, just like laying face down on the fucking water. So it's been really juicy up till now. It's getting really good, and I like that Olivia is trying to figure out obviously what happened because she's also worried that she's next. So like if somebody finds out that she applied to Harvard, she's gonna get fucking murdered next, and she doesn't know what's gonna go on and what's gonna happen. So she's trying to figure out who's Emma's killer, and we really don't know. At this point, there's a lot of red herrings, but it's obviously leaning towards Avery because obviously it makes sense. Avery blew up at Emma at this giant party, and then Emma was not seen past that night, obviously, because she was dead. But there's so many things going on with this. Honestly, I would love to spoil them for you. And there's so many like good red herrings and so many people that you're suspecting. These are the vibes that I was going for. These are the cutthroat, petty ass bitch high school vibes that I deserve. Also, I think I'm really just enjoying this as well because, and I don't know if I ever told my parents this or anybody, but I always really wanted to go to a boarding school, especially for high school. I really don't know why that is. I didn't know anybody in boarding school. It was just something I always wanted to do. I think it's because I was just a very independent kid and I always wanted to go out on my own. And going to a boarding school is kind of like being on your own. It's kind of like you're being away at college. So I'm kind of like living vicariously through these dumb high schoolers who are going to live like this rich boarding school life. Her friends are pieces of shit. Nobody likes them because all of these girls basically help sabotage other students so that they can like move up higher. Like they can get that position, they can get that job, they can apply for that internship, they can score better on this test, and they literally will take other people down. Like the things that the girls have done so far that I found out. It's just pretty shocking. I feel like that's also very smart for girls of this age. But then again, I mean, when I was a vengeful teenager, I probably could have done some shit too. I'm vengeful as fuck now. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, when I finish this bad bitch, I will get back to you guys. But so far it's looking really good. I don't know what the rating is at the moment, but I feel like it has to at least be a 4-star because I'm genuinely enjoying this and trying to figure out what is going on. And like, this is the kind of like mystery thrillers that I look for. So if you've read this book, by the way, and you have any other suggestions, let me know because I love this type of genre. Like this is the kind of thrillers that I look for, like these academic thrillers where it's kind of like you're back in time in high school, because obviously I'm not in high school anymore. Like I love the feeling of that kind of like rivalry and competitiveness. And I know this is the same in college, but I feel like high school is just a different level of petty because your brains really are so underdeveloped at that point that you are just batshit vengeful for no reason. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I will get back to you guys when I finish this, which should hopefully be in the next day here or so, because honestly, I just kind of cannot put this bitch down. Like I have to find out what is going on, and I think I know who the killer is. We'll see if I'm right. So good news, I finished the Ivies and it was indeed the 4-star I was looking for. This is definitely Pretty Little Liars meets Mean Girls, and it just gave me exactly the vibes I was looking for at this moment. So to sum it up, our main protagonist, Olivia, is basically the poor outcast of her group, like literally financially poor. And we don't really know why these girls are even friends with Olivia because she doesn't really seem to be involved in much, but these girls are called the Ivies, and each one of the girls has basically been told that they have to apply to a certain like Ivy League school, so that way like it erases the competitiveness between them. So the main queen, Regina George bitch, Avery, said that hers is Harvard, and then she like assigned everybody else their own things, whatever. So Olivia's was supposed to be Penn State. Well, she decides to apply to Harvard, and so does the other friend in the group named Emma, and then Emma tells Avery one night, and then the next morning Emma is found dead. The previous night, Avery and Emma really got into it at a party whenever Emma told her, hey, I applied to Harvard, like, suck it. So now Olivia is fucking terrified to say anything because she also doesn't want to end up dead. But now she is basically trying to find out who else applied to Harvard, what's going on with Emma, like what were the motivations to kill Emma, and a lot of things are being exposed. Like, I have to say, the amount of red herrings in this was really fun. Like, there was so many options for murderers, and I really liked that. There was the perfect amount of like murder and intrigue and blackmail. Like, this just really kept me on my toes, and I wanted to keep reading even though it was like late at night because I wanted to know what was going to happen. Like, this was the perfect amount of like intrigue for me to like want to keep going, but it wasn't like stressful to read. So on to the things I didn't love. And one of those things is I don't really know if Olivia was a good character to do this with. Olivia wasn't really involved with the Ivies. I honestly don't know why she was involved with them as a friend. Like, it just kind of didn't really make sense. And I had to like kind of continually tell myself that she was their friend because it wasn't really seeming like it. She was excluded from pretty much fucking everything. So it just didn't feel very like believable that these were really truly her friends. I think even like elite bitchy mean girls like still can like have a semblance of friendship, and I just like really did not feel that at all. So their lack of friendship basically just felt a little bit too ridiculous, and Olivia just felt too outcasted to be involved. Like, I think that if she really was truly outcast at school who just also happened to get into Harvard or something, it kind of could have gone a little bit better because also then we wouldn't feel as guilty, I think, investigating these girls and seeing what they really truly did to other people. Like, maybe if Olivia was one of the people that was like scorned by them, I think would be even better. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like her character specifically, her storyline, everything just didn't really work as well. I hope that makes sense. And of course, my biggest disappointment was actually the ending. And I just really wasn't behind the killer. I wasn't behind the motive. I feel like it was very generic and like been there, done that. That was my biggest disappointment. So until like the 90% mark, I really, really enjoyed this book. But the ending just definitely took it down a little bit for me. It was a little bit too contrived. And like, I just didn't really feel it. You know, and there's a couple other options for murderers that I was hoping that she would go with, and that just didn't happen. And that's fine. But it was a little bit of disappointment for sure at the end. Like, did I connect with any of these characters? Did I really, truly care about them? No. But did I really love the fun, murdery, gossipy time? Yeah. So if you're looking for one of those kind of books, I would definitely recommend this one. It was really fun. And I hope that she writes some other like mystery thrillers in the future because this was just the perfect, innocent, good time I was looking for. Next, I'm going to pick up Ace of Spades because I have the physical copy, the audiobook, and the ebook. So there's literally no excuse for me not to read this fucking book right now. And this is, to me, a very similar topic, but it's more about a social media aspect. And this is kind of more Gossip Girl meets Get Out. So there's somebody named Aces who is basically texting people on campus all the terrible things that these two have done. And I'm only 10% of the way into this so far, but it's getting juicy. So Devon is gay and his mom doesn't know, and there's like a sex tape circulating with him and another dude. And she basically was involved in a hit and run with a girl with her best friend Jamie, who she also has feelings for. And Jamie like just told her that like he found the one and like wants to be with this other girl on campus named Belle. So there's like a lot of stuff already going on very early on in this book, and I'm really excited to get into it, but I'm not really sure which format I'm going to follow with because I have all three of them. Like, I have just been reading physically, but the audiobook could speed it up a little bit. So we're gonna see what I decide to do, but this is hopefully gonna be another good 4 to 5 star. I just want to pop in to say that this book is just not what I was expecting. I was really expecting it to be like a dark academic thriller, and just right now it's really not feeling like that at all. I feel like there are so many like tangents off into like their personal lives, and it doesn't feel like it's connecting to the story. I mean, I'm sure it is at the end, but like at this moment, I'm just having a really hard time with this book, and like I've kind of wanted to DNF it a couple of different times. And it's not that it's like necessarily boring, it's just like it's not what I was expecting of it. It's not what I wanted to read right now. Like, I really want something very thrilling, and I want something to feel like a dark academic novel, and it's just not giving those vibes at all. Even though it takes place at a school, it's like really not giving that kind of a vibe. I also just feel like this is a little too obvious and on the nose. Like, I kind of already know what's gonna happen and what's happening and why they're being targeted, and I just don't really like see how that's very believable to have this happen. I don't want to ruin anything for you because I'm definitely gonna include like a spoiler bit whenever I fully finish this novel, but like I'm just not really believing where this is going, and I'm just having a really hard time with it. It's just like not what I was expecting. I was expecting more of like a Gossip Girl feel, and definitely they've gotten some messages from Aces like saying terrible things that they've done, but I just feel like every single time that happens, it doesn't really seem to affect their lives at all. I just feel like there's no affectation, and even like the school principal or whatever is like, well, you guys are just sending those messages yourself. I just feel like the believability is like zero. Like, I cannot believe that like nobody is saying anything, nobody's trying to fix this, nobody's investigating these messages. It just feels like really, it feels like an alternate universe. It feels really weird, and that could just be like the point that this author is going for, that being Black feels very isolating and very like like unbelievable and like nobody's ever on your side and like nobody's ever investigating anything. I mean, that's probably a big point, but like it's almost frustrating to read. Actually, it's not almost frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating because it's not believable. Like in my mind, this principal should be like in an uproar. Like everybody on campus should be like snitching and like trying to figure shit out. And like, it just doesn't, it's not vibing with me. I also think it's weird that out of like left field, Chiamaka is like now in a relationship with her best friend's girlfriend, who originally she was jealous of because she was in love with Jamie, and now she's with his girlfriend Belle. And I don't know if they're even still together. Like I really don't. I don't know. I feel like there's so many like plot holes in this, and I'm just very confused. I feel like a lot of things come out of left field and we're just expected to like go with it. And I just did not see that relationship building up at all, except in the scene itself over like a page. I'm confused. I feel like all these like people are being dropped in their lap for like no reason. And again, that probably could just be like the ending and what's supposed to happen, but like as of this moment, I'm just really struggling with this book. I'm struggling with where it's going. It doesn't feel very thrillery, even though they've like found somebody in a mask. I don't particularly care. Like I'm not caring about this because it just there's no thrillery feeling. It feels like we're in like in a video game and like they're just choosing not to follow that character or something. It's like, it doesn't feel like urgent or like a real life. These don't feel like real characters. This doesn't feel like a real book, if that makes sense. This feels like an alternate universe where nobody's investigating these fucking messages that are like huge things. Like you insinuated that Chiamaka hit a girl with her car and killed her. Murder, manslaughter, and nobody's investigating that. There's not one detective or cop that's coming around. It feels very like Stepford Wives-y. And that could of course be like what this is going for, but like I was reading this for a young adult dark academic thriller. I did not come here reading this book for like a dystopian book. And that's just kind of how it's feeling. It's feeling very like sci-fi. And the problem is I like that, but like if I expect something of a book, I'm expecting it to give me that, and it can definitely like lower my ratings. Like I'm feeling very frustrated with this book. Like I have been mad at this book all day. And the thing is like, I don't want to read it then when I'm mad at it because I'm so fucking confused and like angry. I don't know. Maybe this is all intentional. I mean, I'm assuming it is because the whole book is written that way. I just feel like nothing is making sense. Nothing is connecting. I'm probably just missing the point. I'm probably missing the point because I'm too dumb for this shit. I just feel like this is just not the dark academic thing that I'm going for. There's like no academics involved. They were like not involved in school at all. It's just not giving me the vibes I was going for this reading vlog. This feels like this should belong completely in a different reading vlog at this point. Like it just does not feel like the same book. Am I reading a different book than everybody else? Because that's kind of how it feels. Once I finish this, I'll let you guys know what's going on. But honestly, I'm struggling with this, and it's not just because it feels like a really different book than I was expecting. I'm just not sure I really like the story. It feels very unbelievable unless we're supposed to think it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like when I go into like a dystopian thriller or whatever it is, I'm gonna go into it knowing I'm expecting a dystopian, but this has only ever been like marketed to me as like a mystery thriller. And like, where is the mystery? I feel like it's quite obvious so far what's going on. Like, where's the mysterious elements? Where's us truly investigating? Because right now it just feels like we're living in like a Stepford Wives type of town. Maybe that's the point. I don't know, but I'll let you guys know when I finish this, which will hopefully be tomorrow, but I'm struggling. I really don't know how to tell you guys that I absolutely hated this book. I really did not enjoy this at all. Ace of Spades is pitched as this young adult dark academic thriller following two Black students at this very famous private academy named Niveus. So we have Chiamaka and Devon, and they're the only two people of color at this school. So Chiamaka is biracial and Devon is Black. And both of the students are facing racially charged harassments from a online person named Aces, who is texting the entire school whenever something happens. They're leaking their dirty laundry. Okay, first off, am I reading a different book than everybody else? I said this before, but like, I just feel like this is not the book that I was thinking this was. I think I'm just also upset because everybody gave this like 4 or 5 stars. Like, I have heard nothing but good things about this book. I haven't heard anything about it in quite a while now, but it was very popular when it first came out. It was like all the rage. And when I was gonna be in the mood for a dark academic thriller, like perfect. But this just did not fit that bill at all, and it really did not scratch that itch. For this one, I really took a couple days and I really thought about like the things that I really didn't like about this book because there's so many things. First of all, this is not dark academia at all. Like, this does not give off any school vibes, and just because something takes place at a school does not mean it is now dark academia. And where are all these shocking plot twists? Like, where are all these crazy things that come out of left field? Where's the thriller aspect for this book? This was so incredibly predictable and everything was revealed so early that it wasn't even like a freaking thriller or mystery. Like, I knew what was gonna happen well before we even got to the 50% mark in the book. I really did not like the execution of this. Like, not only did I not like the writing style, I just felt like there are so many plot holes and inconsistencies that just really don't add up to the point where I literally felt like I was reading like a sci-fi dystopian book about like an alternate reality where this was all happening, because it just really doesn't make any sense. Like, nothing is taken to a logical level. Like, if you actually look into like the logical explanation, there is nothing there. Like, Aces broadcasts something about one of these students and then nothing fucking happens. Like, literally nothing happens. And it is just so incredibly frustrating that like there's seems to be like no consequences or like care for concern. Like, literally Chi is accused of like murdering a student by hitting her with a car. Why was like not one police officer called? Why is not one detective called? Why is nobody investigating this? These are really serious crimes. These are serious. And also, how are like not other students like talking about this to the media? How are not other students being like, oh my God, this is like this crazy person at our school who's like saying all these things? How is this not getting out? How does nobody else know about this? And then on top of that, like, something happens and then they just move on. Like it's barely like a scene. They're like, oh man, that sucks that people know that. And then they just like poof, they go right back to like dating the new person they decided to date in the middle of all this happening. Both Devon and Chi both like found a different person to date, a new romantic interest, and they think that's like cool in the middle of like this whole thing going down. Like, yeah, let's just give Aces more information to publish. Like, that's a really great idea. Let me like trust somebody who I should not be trusting. Cool. I just have so many questions for this book. Like, again, how is nobody like fucking posting about this on social media? How does nobody know anything? Why did they both decide to start new relationships in the middle of all this fucking chaos where you cannot be trusting people? How does that make any fucking sense? Why is nobody telling their fucking parents? Why does nobody else know? It's literally like so secluded and weird. Like, it does not feel real, okay? This just does not make any sense. It is not a thriller in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion, because everything was revealed so early. And you know what? I'm just gonna get into the spoilers because I just feel like I cannot properly review this book without going into the spoilers for like why I do not like certain things. But let me explain. So lo and behold, we find out that Aces is basically the entire fucking school, because there's this giant racist ass institution who decides to take 2 black students every 10 years and they decide to ruin their lives and make them drop out of school so they have like no prospects for the future. That's the whole gist. I'm sorry. I don't really feel like that's realistic for hundreds and hundreds of people involved to just try to like make these students drop out. What a weird fucking motivation to begin with, okay? And then how is that believable that like an entire town is doing this? And then on top of that, we find out that there's other places around the world that do this. Is that how they're slipping under the radar? Like, that's not explained at fucking all. And like, okay, so if Aces is like the whole school, why do they have to use a computer at 10 p.m. on a fucking Sunday? Why can't there be hundreds of students doing that during any normal hours that are not being suspicious? Because no one's gonna suspect all of you were in on it. So why do you have to wear a fucking mask and go to the computer? And like, this computer is like a clue for like explaining the racist institution? Girl, bye. And also on top of that, we found out the hit and run that she was involved in was a fucking setup. So her best friend Jamie hit this girl and she was like always haunted by this girl, the hit and run. It was a fucking fake ass setup. Okay, I'm sorry, how do you fake a hit and run? How do you actually fake a hit and run to like a real person in real time? Like, it wasn't like a recording of a hit and run or something, like, and you couldn't fabricate it. She literally had to think that he hit this fucking bitch with his car. She said there was blood pooling from her head in the street. And also, so that girl just like went to a different school or something for a couple years and now she's back at their school. Why would I go back to your school now that you find out that I'm not dead? Like, why does that matter? Why does that matter? Like, that is like the weirdest fucking plot intricacy I can ever think of. And on top of that, again, how was this a fucking setup? How was this a setup? And how the fuck was none of this ever leaked? You're telling me you have hundreds of teenagers, and it's supposed to be modern day. So modern day teenagers are not leaking any of this to anybody. Is everybody under mind control? That would make fucking sense. But no, that wasn't the fucking case. So you're telling me that all of these teenagers, all these people, all of these children are in on this white ass institution just to make 2 kids drop out of school. I get what the author was going for here. It makes perfect sense to me what she was going for, but this execution is not it. I mean, how is there no media coverage? How is there not one media fucking source that we can trust? Because towards the end, they involved the media. And of course, this is the one fucking news station that is also in on this KKK institution. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You're telling me you can't go to any other national news source? Nobody else is covering this shit? Especially because there were protests. So nobody's covering the protests, but yet they can like fucking interview people about the fucking fire when the whole ass school burned down. Like, I just feel like this book was just not well thought out at all. Like, I love the idea behind it, but like, what the fuck? Like, how is there an explanation? This isn't like a group of like 10 people sworn to secrecy trying to like ruin people's lives. Like, that makes fucking sense. But you're telling me that hundreds and hundreds of separated individuals are in on this. I just can't buy it. Again, I understand what the author is going for. I get the relevance of the hundreds of people. It's unrealistic, especially because you're telling me this is like a modern day academic thriller. Where is any of that? Also, I just feel like there's just no payoff for all this work. Like, you're literally just gonna have them drop out. Why even accept them in the first place? You're already not gonna meet any of the requirements for an academic institution. You can't only have 2 Black students and all the rest of them are white. There's no Latino students. There's no fucking like Asian students. There's nobody else. They're just white and then 2 Black. How is that even fucking possible? Like, legitimately, that logically cannot happen even in this day and age. That is not allowed to happen. This isn't an alternate universe where that could happen and they don't have like rules. There's no ACLU and shit. Like, this just does not make any sense, dude. I think that's my biggest frustration is like, I really was expecting a thriller. Like, I was expecting like The Ivies. I really liked that book. It was a thriller that took place at a school and it involved academics. This one just feels like a total mindfuck that doesn't make any sense because nothing fits together and nothing is making sense. Like, literally, it's years of work just to get 2 kids dropped out. Just don't accept them. You're already not gonna pass the guidelines anyway. I don't understand why you're going through all this fucking work for years and years and years. You do every 10 years, you do another 2 students. Like, what is the point? Why would I go out of my way to do this for somebody else? I can't even think about doing that for the person I hate most in this world. That's too much energy, sweetie. That's too much energy to devote to somebody I don't care about. Like, there are just so many red flags for just admissions by itself. This doesn't make any sense how this is even plausible. And I think the thing that just upsets me the most, the author tells us it's supposed to be modern day. Like, this is supposed to be anywhere in the world and that's the thing I think that worked against this because she didn't include like the location and stuff on purpose, but like it had like a very British feeling in the beginning because we have like head prefects and stuff, which is only a British thing. That's not a thing in America. And then everything else seems like American, normal town, but it's like by a beach. And it's like almost so no name that you can't really picture it. And then on top of that, like, this is just not plausible. You know what I mean? This is an alternate universe kind of situation where that magically could be acceptable and people could really not know about it. That has been going on for fucking decades. Like, if this was a new thing that just happened or something and there's a very small group of people, it would be believable. It would make sense. And I think that would have made this all the more terrifying is there's a small group of people who were doing this and they're not being caught because it's such a small group of people. And like, what if they just targeted only 2 students out of like the entire student body and they could be any person of color? There's so many different ways that this could have gone. Like, I love her idea for this, but the execution it's just not good. Like, it's just so frustrating to read this. And the biggest disappointment of it all is because I really thought this was gonna be a 5-star. Like, I've heard nothing but good things about this book. And halfway through when I updated you guys, I was like shocked that this was the book that people were talking about. It just was not the book I was expecting. It was not the book that I was told was like this magnificent fucking thriller. It just doesn't have any of those elements in general, but even for like a sci-fi dystopian, it's not making sense. Like, we still need things that connect and we also need to know the setting and the location and things still have to make sense for the genre. If this book does not work, and I'm just kind of shocked that this is so highly loved and rated because the amount of glaring plot holes just sends me. There's nothing more that I hate in the world than a plot hole, and I hate plot holes, okay? And if your entire book is full of these plot holes from the very beginning and nothing is explained and everything is just told to me and I can't figure anything out, we have a problem. Anyway, that was a very long rant. I'm very sorry. Did not like this book at all and color me shocked that I am gonna give this 1 star. I really don't like this at all. I wouldn't reread it. It made me so frustrated. And I don't even know if I'd recommend it. It's not a young adult dark thriller. If you're wanting a book about what I just talked about and you can suspend your disbelief, you might enjoy it. I don't think it's like the worst idea in the world. I think it's a really interesting idea. And I understand that she set up this world to be like how it feels to be a Black person in today's world. Like, I understand what she was going for, but the execution of this as like an actual story just does not work. So I'm gonna move on to the Atlas 6. And I've technically already like moved on to it. I've already started it because it's honestly been like probably a week since I last talked to you, I guess. So I'm about 30% of the way into the Atlas 6, and this book is taking me a lot longer than I anticipated to get into. But I realized it doesn't seem like a very long book. When I looked at the Kindle version, it's 556 pages, which makes a lot of sense because I feel like I've been reading this book forever already, and I'm barely 30% of the way into this book. In this book, we're following 6 different protagonists. So we have 6 different magicians that are called Medians in this world, and each one of them has their own power, their own ability. And they were individually selected to be a part of this prestigious program that takes place in London, and they basically go and have to like work together as a team to protect like the mansion in which they're gonna live. So they're working together, but they also have to like stand out with their own powers and do their own research and stuff. So in a year, one of them is gonna have to not be in this program any longer, and then after 2 years, then they can like graduate and like move on with their life. I don't really understand like the point of the program as of yet. Basically it's just like if you get chosen for this, you're gonna become like a CEO, like a politician, like you're a very famous person in the magic world, and you have a lot of power, you're very powerful, but I'm not really sure the full extent of everything. It just seems like their whole job is to like protect the Alexandrian library, which was moved to London. Like that's a long story short, but like it's in London and they have to like figure out ways to like protect it. And on like the first night that they're there was like an invasion, and they kind of like each had to like see how each other's powers worked, because whenever they were invaded, they each had to like take down people and kill them to protect like the library. So that just seems like the whole plot of this so far, and I'm not mad at it. But so far this book is interesting. I'm just not really sure where it's gonna like go. I'm assuming that the first book is gonna end with one of them obviously being like taken out by the end of the year, because I think you technically have to kill the other person. I'm pretty sure like there's 6 of you have to go down to 5. You guys have to all vote on like who's the person who's gonna die. Maybe that's like the whole thing. I don't remember. I think this is more of a character-driven story anyway, so I think that kind of makes sense. But like in terms of plot, like I feel like there's not much else I can really tell you, but that's to my understanding. So once I finish the Atlas 6, I'll get back to you guys. I can finally finish the reading vlog, because honestly, I'm barely gonna make it for August. Like this definitely is not gonna get published in August. Like I have so much editing to do, so it's definitely gonna come to you a little bit later in September. Not late September, like early September, but it's not gonna be happening before the end of August. So, but I have to finish reading the books. Like that's what's the most important. It's like the books are finished. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys all in like 30 seconds. Bye. Okay, so after much deliberation and finally finishing the Atlas 6, I think I'm going to lovingly give this book 2 stars. You know, I have not been wrong yet with reading a chapter of a book and then seeing how I'm gonna like the book and then choosing to read my favorite book in the beginning, because the Ivies was by far my favorite choice, and then this was my second choice. And then my third choice was Ace of Spades. And so far, that's how the ranking has gone. So I think that my chapter review is basically the way to go. Anyway, let me get into the Atlas 6, which is a very different book than I was expecting. And I did know this was gonna be pretentious just because based off the first chapter, this writing was pretentious as fuck. So 6 Medians are chosen every 10 years to join this Alexandrian society that's like the Alexandrian Society of Books, protecting the archives. And these are like very powerful people that basically like get to be there for 2 years and then go out into the world and be like powerful CEOs, politicians, run things, but they're always like a part of the society. And that's how they like power this whole thing. I don't really know. But anyway, after the first year, only 5 will remain, which means that one of them has to be eliminated. Now, what they don't realize is that one of them has to be eliminated like permanently. So that was a big plot running throughout this book. And a thing that really confused me is I really don't understand the point of this society, because these 6 candidates have to basically protect the archives together, like learn how to create like a security system with their powers. And I just feel like that's a really weak point of plot and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because then you're supposed to work together, but then you also have to like choose one of them that has to be eliminated after a year. I'm gonna try to make this brief, but I didn't like any of the characters we had. We had 6 different main POVs, and we actually had a couple extras, but those were our main POV characters, were each one of the characters that were chosen to be part of this Alexandrian thing. So some of them had backstories, and I felt like they were kind of explained in a good way. Like I can understand what some of the characters were like, and some of the characters I kept mixing up. I kept mixing up Callum, Dalton, and Tristan for some reason. I think it's because their names ended the same. So for me, they just all were like the same person, even though they're obviously completely different characters. For some reason, they all just melded together. So that could just be me, but it could also just be the writing, because the writing was very frustrating for me. The time jumps just did not work. We're supposed supposed to basically cover almost an entire year in this book, and it just did not feel like that at all, and the time jumps did not help. The different perspectives did help differentiate, but especially if it was one of those three dudes in a scene, I had a really hard time telling them apart. So that didn't really help anything. But it was also very clear that the author was favoring certain characters, because certain characters like Reina were basically like obsolete. Like they were basically never on screen. Reina has a power to like control nature, and it's like she was a complete afterthought. She was barely in scenes. We barely had her POV, obviously thrown to the wind. But we got Parissa, who was like a fucking sex-crazed, mind-reading bitch. We got her perspective constantly, and I just don't really like her as a character to begin with, and she's like the worst one, and here we are in her head constantly. I don't think it's really the perspectives that are the problem, I just have to say. I think it's the lack of world building, because I really couldn't picture this book, and I'm someone who is very visual, and sometimes I could picture certain scenes, but I couldn't picture how everything kind of fit together. The society wasn't very well explained. The whole thing just wasn't well explained. Like, what are these people doing? They're like studying all day? Like, what are you studying for? What's the point? It wasn't explained. That part just really did not make any sense to me. I need a little bit more of a plot. And towards the end, we kind of get more of a mystery plot of what's happening with a few people, what's going on with these people. Are they dead? Are they alive? Where are they? That makes sense. Like, I understand that part. But all the action scenes were very difficult to read. And overall, I just feel like this needs a lot of like cleaning up editing wise. And it really needs some world building, because these characters are not strong enough to lead this story, especially whenever this is a very interesting world. You need that world building to understand what's going on. I need to understand the magic a little bit better. This just did not work for me. Like, this had a really cool premise and I like the idea of it, but it just didn't work with the execution. Now, would I read the second one? I mean, I might. I'm not against it. I didn't hate this book. It was okay. Like, this just really wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a more thorough plot. I just feel like some books are plotted really well and make a lot of sense. And this is one of those books that just like, if you're not good at making stuff up in your head, this is going to be really hard for you. And I like a cohesive story. I want what the author wants me to read. I don't want to like pretend to picture like what's going on, because most of the time you're wrong. That's not what the fucking author intended. So the world building is very weak here. Really need to be elevated. I also should warn you guys, there was a really weird like forced threesome that just really didn't feel very consensual in like the very exact middle of the book. It just was really odd and unexpected, and I think it was supposed to like give us some like sexual intrigue, but honestly it just turned me off, and I was just kind of wanting to DNF it at that point. I was like, this is just really weird. This makes no sense for the plot. What is this doing for the characters? This is just fucking weird. I absolutely hated it. It just did not work for me at all. I don't like any of the sex that was included in this book. Now, there's not a whole lot of like sex scenes per se. There's probably like 4 altogether, but like, I just don't like them. I also don't like those characters. I don't think they should have any fucking like page time, because I don't really like them. So seeing them having sex or having sex to get certain things was just really annoying. Also, this ended on like a really dumb ass cliffhanger that just kind of makes no sense, and it didn't like leave me wanting more. I'm just kind of like, what are you doing? I don't even know if I'm gonna hit up the second one, because after just seeing how poorly executed this one was, like, I just don't know if I want to see this idea butchered again in a second novel. So this is the end of this reading vlog, and I will say that the Atlas 6 and the Ivies definitely gave dark academia, but Ace of Spades did not. So I definitely would not count that as dark academia, just letting you guys know in case you're looking for those kind of books. I would not recommend that one specifically. I would read it probably on its own and just like forget anything you've ever heard about it, because it's just not that. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little sad. I was really hoping to love each and every single one of these books, but I really did enjoy the Ivies, and I would recommend that. And I definitely thought about picking up some of her other books, just because Alexa Dunn, I really like her YouTube channel, obviously, but I was always kind of scared of her writing. But I really liked her writing in the Ivies, so I definitely would pick up more of her stuff. So if you have read her stuff and you recommend it, please let me know. And please let me know if you've read the second Atlas 6 book. I don't remember what it's called, but let me know if it's worth it, because you know what? It had potential. And that's almost like why it's even sadder, is like when I could see where this could have gone if somebody else wrote it. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'll talk to you guys all very, very soon, and have a lovely day.